Welcome to the Money Insights Podcast, where high income earners come to learn wealth building strategies that will take them from high income to high net worth. With your hosts, financial and wealth building experts, Christian Allen and Rod Zabriskie.
Welcome into today's episode of the Money Insights Podcast, where we talk all things money and business. My name's Christian Allen, here with my co-host. You know him as Rodney the Pod Zabriskie. Rod, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. And today is a big day.
Tell me why.
It's been building for a couple of years now. And in our first episode, I said I was going to get a mug.
You did it. Oh, boy. The anticipation. And then Rod delivers. Rod the Pod. I love it.
What you can't see if you're not looking at this on YouTube is I now have a mug. I said I was going to do it. And It has Rodney the Pod Zabriskie right on it. But
I love
Christian, just in case you had said Rod the Pod.
That's even better. I was actually going to ask, how did you decide which mug to go with?
Yeah, we just did both. Put our logo in there, like in between, but depending on which way you go, we can go either way.
I love it. I love it. You delivered. That's good news. So I appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, Rod the Pod that now has two super cool mugs. I feel like I need to catch up in the mug acquiring category.
Yeah, right. And that's okay. So make sure people know I didn't forget. We will be unveiling the big nickname for Christian.
Okay. It's still the jury's still out on it, but you're working.
I'm getting close. I'm feeling pretty good.
All right. As long as it's not the magician, then we should be in okay shape.
All right. I'll eliminate that one.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody again for hanging out with us today. We are going to talk about a little bit. We're gonna take a little different approach than what I normally take. I'm just gonna say this is more like Rod style. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
We're getting into the touchy feely stuff for just a little bit.
Yeah, and can I also say Christian built an outline that looks a little more like mine as well, a little more detail.
It does. So here's the thing: we're going to talk about 8 ways to cultivate a positive money mindset. Before I do that, a couple of quick announcements. Okay, first thing, want to make sure we mention the webinar. Our next live webinar is going to be on September 14th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Title is Smart Leverage, Amplifying Returns with Strategic Debt. Man, I love it. And that's going to be featuring our very own Rodney the Pod and most likely Brennan. I don't have a nickname for Brennan, but we'll work on that one too.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a little work to do in the nickname category.
That's right. Yeah, keep going.
One more quick announcement. Inside the Investment Strategies for High Income Earner Facebook group, again, that's the Investment Strategies for High Income Earner Facebook group, I started posting questions of the week. So I'm hoping we can start getting a little bit more, what's the word, Rod?
Interaction,
connection, connectivity. So the question of this week is, have you explored alternative investments like private equity, real estate syndications, and cryptocurrency? What's been your experience? And do you think they're a valuable addition to a high-income earner's portfolio? Share your thoughts on Facebook. If you see the question, take a second to go answer it. I think we'll get a lot of interesting thoughts if we can get more interaction going. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, we refer to this as our community, and we want to kind of build that.
Yes, we got to build the community. Now we're early, right? We obviously built the podcast a few years ago, but we didn't do the Facebook group until just recently. But we're excited about it. We have a lot of good traction, and there's an incredible group of talented and extremely savvy investors inside that group that have an unbelievable amount to give in terms of thoughts, advice, and ideas. Okay. That said, Rod, let's get into our topic. We're going to talk about, again, how to cultivate a positive money mindset. So to kind of kick this off, Rod, maybe I'll throw it over to you for a second to talk a little bit about just the overall importance of having why would we even tackle this subject from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so. And I'll speak for myself personally, and maybe just like my wife and I kind of in our home culture, you bring biases, you bring experiences in your life related to money, you don't know it's defining kind of your mindset toward money at the time, but it really does. And if you think back and you look back and you say, okay, well, I have this hang up on as it relates to money. Like for a lot of people, it's like money is dirty or money is the root of all evil, kind of, that kind of thing where if you have money,
That's
you're
just something
in
poor
some way
people say,
bad.
Rod.
What's
No,
that?
I'm just teasing. I said that's just something poor people say, but I was just teasing. Yeah, but we do hear those kinds of
There are
things, and
lots of
people
things like
bring those kinds of thoughts and ideas into their world, depending on, of course, how it started, right?
Mhm.
So the way that our parents thought about money oftentimes is transferred to us,
Yeah.
which again is why like we're hoping to change that narrative and make it a more abundance mentality. So anyway, sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
No, but that's really it is I mean, and I would say that people probably on the whole have positive attitudes toward money as well, right? Because it does allow us to do things that we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have money
I
to do
think
those
it's
things.
fair to say everybody
So,
would like more money, or
yeah.
at least most everybody. Like there's probably a few rare exceptions, but like most people, even if they do think it's the root of all evil, they still want it.
Yeah, your hopes and dreams in life have to be brought about in some way, and money is usually a part of that. So,
That is. It's a part of it. It's a part of the American dream, right?
yep,
Leaving the 9 to 5 job and being able to have complete financial independence.
yep,
That's the goal. Okay. But I agree with you. Actually having a positive money mindset will basically have an impact on every piece of your life, not just your financial life, but your mental well-being, your relationships with family and friends, etc. So it really is just a central part of the way that we live. Super important. Okay,
absolutely.
Rod, I have to tell you, not all of these are mine. Okay. So what I've done is what I normally do. I bring my own ideas into it, and then I try to like do a little research and due diligence and find information from other sources
Yeah.
to try to get a more kind of full experience and look at whatever the topic is we're tackling. Right.
Yep.
So that's what we've done today. So I want to just start by saying I cannot claim to be the person that does all of these things. I do some of them without question, and I'll be interested to see which of these things that are listed out today are things that you participate in yourself or have in the past or have any strong feelings about.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I think it is fair to say that we want to put out there an ideal, something to shoot for, not necessarily to say, hey, we're doing all these things.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. But again, there's no question that doing all of these things could have and probably would have a positive impact on our money
absolutely.
mindset. Okay, number one, Rod, the power of affirmations. I gotta say, I've never been an affirmations person,
Mhm.
like really in any way, shape, or form. They've always seemed a little cheesy for me. Not that I don't believe that they can work. I just have never taken the stance like I'm gonna. Now, I will say this: I absolutely believe in that voice in our head speaking to us
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
positive way. And so like I'm conscientious of that, but I don't think I've ever gone as far as actually like saying, Christian, you are good looking.
Yeah.
Christian, no, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Anyway, but what do you think of the power of affirmations as a whole? And have you ever done any of that?
I'm gonna say, first of all, my first uh, contact with anything related to this brings a bad bias to me. It was Saturday Night Live, and they were just totally making fun of this, and doggone it, people like me. But so that's I've had a bias against it because of that. But and so yeah, I haven't done any of it myself. But
Oh,
I
okay.
see, I read, and I understand, where it comes from, and basically it's taking where you want to be and kind of living it, so to speak, like speaking it today as if you're there, because that pulls your mind, it draws your mind toward these goals that you want to get to.
Well, I'll say this. I 100% believe that the things that we put our greatest focus and intention into are the things that we normally accomplish.
Yeah.
And if by doing affirmations, it helps us keep focused on whatever that goal in this case having a more positive attitude toward money,
Mm-hmm.
well, that I absolutely would make a difference. Okay, so the first one is the power of affirmations. The second one, kind of similar, but it's visualization techniques.
Yeah.
So, what do you think on visualization techniques?
Yeah, this one is a little more in line with kind of the things that I've done myself or seen people do, and more especially in like a sports context, just because that I grew up playing sports. So, the kind of person who before a football game is visualizing them going through, the running back running the play, and every time you visualize that, you're running up against the tacklers and whatever the obstacles, but you're getting through them. The visualization helps you get through them, so that then when you are there in reality running the ball, you've already prepared yourself to get through the obstacles that may come in your way. So I think it's huge.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. I think I visualize myself. Let me ask this, Rod. Do you think that this is the same or different than like creating a definitive like business plan? Like, is this part of that, or is this a totally different thing?
I
Is
think
this
it
like the stepping back and like putting it in our mind? Doesn't have anything to do with necessarily writing it on paper. It could, but
Sure.
anyway, what's your take on that?
I think it goes in conjunction with that. So in the business setting, you have your business plan, you have your goals and whatnot, and similar to the running back, you have plays on that are written out. Everybody understands what the plays are. You've practiced them 100 times, but now the visualization is, as you're working through it, actually seeing yourself go get to success.
Okay,
Right.
Rod. So how does that apply to a positive money mindset?
Yeah. So in the money mindset, you have goals. You mentioned a minute ago, just having this kind of financial freedom, being able to kind of do things on your own terms, and then hopefully you have some sort of plan, methodology that you're working towards to make that happen. And so if you're taking the time to do this kind of visualization, is when you're envisioning yourself actually working through the steps to get there. In reality, it can't be an overnight thing.
Well, and
Right.
here's the other thing. Envisioning yourself with a lot of money in the future probably isn't super helpful alone,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you would need to be more granular than that. You would need to visualize yourself doing whatever actions are required in order to acquire the
Yeah.
money and then invest the money and
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
And in that, similar to like the example I gave, anticipating the obstacles or the setbacks that you might experience, but pushing through those, because that becomes one of the hardest things to maintaining a positive money mindset, is that we know there will be issues that come along. And this last year plus is a really good example of that. Things aren't always going to go the way that we think they will. And part of the visualization is seeing yourself pushing through those things, getting to the other side of them, learning lessons along the way, and then making it happen, like getting to that place.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Rod, those are the first two. Let's move into number 3. This is one we talk about all the time.
Mhm.
So if you've listened to us, we apologize in advance for the repetition. However, repetition is how we learn. Is to educate yourself financially. This is a concept we talk about till we're blue in the face. It's
Yeah.
obviously super critical that we know enough about money to even develop a mindset one way or the other. I think it's very difficult for us to have conviction toward anything that we don't know a whole lot about. So
Right.
that first step toward having a positive money mindset kind of has to be to get yourself more educated so you can, make those positive steps.
Yeah, I would say that's true, and then don't forget to keep it going, right? Make it a continual educational
No,
process.
you do it once. Money stuff doesn't change. It's always the same.
You
Tax
learn it
law
all.
doesn't change. Like none of it. It just stays the same. So you learn it once and you're done. Call
Yeah.
it. No, I'm just teasing. Obviously that I totally agree with you. Um, Now, we live in this space all the time, so it's easy for us to say.
Mhm.
But what I generally do is in areas that I want to be more knowledgeable, I just like throughout my day, I listen to podcasts, I'll read articles
Yeah.
here and there, like just doing those things. Like it doesn't have to be like, all right, I'm setting aside XYZ every single, week or month or whatever.
Yeah.
It can just be kind of within the framework of how we normally go through life.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say to be careful of is don't think that you have to get all of the education first before you start, because you just may never get there if
Before
that's your attitude, right? You
you
have to
mean just like before you start like doing,
yes. Yep. Yep.
investing, like all of those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to pick a starting point, and again, still become educated. I'm not saying don't, start before you get educated. I'm saying become educated to a certain level, create a starting point, and continue to be educated, but be
But
working
take
on it
action
as
along
you're
the way.
going. Yep.
Action with education,
Yep.
Rod. That's
Brilliant.
critical. Okay, Rod, the next one, this one's just good. It's just a good thought. And again, not something I think about probably purposefully, but should. But
Mhm.
this one is the idea of practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
How does that play out in your world, or not play out, to be
Well,
fair?
this idea of gratitude, I think, changed my life. My wife and I, here a couple of years ago, we read a couple of books about gratitude, and the main title that I'm thinking of isn't coming to mind right now, but basically it was a guy who talked about he was having rough life, but then he decided, I'm going to write a thank you letter, thank you card once a day for, I can't remember, it was like a year or something. And then this was kind of like his memoir of saying, this is what I did. These are the things that happened. It wasn't that life all of a sudden became amazing and I didn't run into any challenges. It was just that the way he approached those challenges, the way he approached life in general, was just very different, because he was on a daily basis thinking about the things that around him that he had gratitude for.
It kind of sounds to me, Rod, like it's just like remapping the brain, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Like if you're forcing yourself consciously to take that kind of a view, then it just is likely to permeate into the other areas of your life,
Yeah,
right?
for
And
sure.
therefore positivity and really in that world, like the positive, practicing gratitude, we're talking about it in the context of a positive money mindset, but the reality is that's just a really great principle to have like a more joyful, happy life. Is
Yeah,
that fair? Is that fair to say?
absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, Rod, this is another one we talk about all the time. You've got to surround yourself with positive influences. What is it that they say? You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time around.
Yeah. Yep.
And to the extent that that's true, it becomes really important that if we want to have a positive money mindset, I probably better try to spend as much time around people who already have that or are working toward it like I am.
Yeah. Yeah, and try to be that for others as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super. I just think it's critical. I can tell you, even I just look at my own family, and there is a massive schism. Which word is it?
Chasm sounds good.
Chasm. We'll go with that, between what some of us believe about money and the way that we view money and see money,
Yeah.
and others. Like even in like a small finance or family dynamic. I mean, there's 7 kids, so it can it can go all over the place.
Mhm.
But still, like that basically is all over the gamut.
Yeah.
And so I think about that, and um, a lot of that has to do from my belief is as we've gotten older, we've done more of these different things. Now, it's probably not just being around the 5 people, around positive or negative influences, but it
Mhm.
is a sum of all of these things,
Sure.
right? All of these things together have this overall impact, but a big part of that is certainly the people that we spend time around. Rod, it reminds me of this statistic. Okay, so here's what's coming to mind. And I don't know what the specific numbers are around the statistic, but I know that it's true. And people who are married, whose closest friends are people who are divorced, have a higher probability of becoming divorced.
Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So I know that this is totally different, but the context is that we are similar. Like we do have, regardless of what we believe that influence is, it's going to be there more than what we're conscientious of. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the message I wanted to get across.
Yeah, and this reminds me of a quote, and again, I wish who I could remember who said this, but this was in the context of finding a mentor. And the quote is, "When the student is ready, the mentor will show up."
Yeah.
And so in this case, like if you're listening to this, and you're saying, "Man, but I don't have anyone around me that has positive, attitudes toward money. I want to get there." You can seek those out, and I would say, seek them out in the form of, podcasts or books, or Zig Ziglar kind of people out there that have a very positive attitude in life, that you can then consume that information, and be on the lookout for people that you can kind of take on as that kind of, call it a mentor role, call it a friend, whatever, but creating that kind of positive influence around you.
I agree that this totally goes in line with kind of those mentor relationships. Why not find Shifu? Is that his name? Shifu? Do
I
you know
don't
who
know.
Shifu is?
No.
Oh gosh. Okay, well, Kung Fu Panda's
Ah,
master, I believe
okay.
his name's Shifu. I apologize in advance to anyone who's offended if I got what I think is Shifu's name wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I should have given you the I don't know
Yeah.
kind of
See, it's like Yoda,
tone
Shifu.
to it.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Rod. Next, this is important. You've got to set clear financial goals. Talk about why that's important.
I mean, goals. If you don't have something specific that you're shooting for, then chances are you'll just be all over the board. It's difficult to stay focused on a target if you don't have a target, if you don't know what that target is.
Yeah, clarity,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like if everything's blurry, right? There's real question on what that result's going to look like.
Yep.
Kind of reminds me of the difference. People are going to love this analogy. This is just going to be so
Oh, I can't wait.
enthralling. It reminds me of the difference, Rod, between a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan,
I like it.
right? We put our money in our defined contribution plan. We hope for the best, but we don't really know what the result is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not necessarily saying which one is definitively better. Although, if I'm being honest, like if you're the participant, it's almost always better to have the defined benefit plan,
Yeah.
because that puts all of the pressure on whoever's offering. Anyway, it's kind of an
Yep.
interesting thought. Like if I don't have clarity, if I don't know what I'm looking for, it becomes awfully difficult to accomplish to get there.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing I'll say is that all of these things just seem to like stack on one another, and not necessarily in a direct order, but it's like all of these things together are what cultivate the positive. It's almost like if you just chose to do one or two things, like there'd be some improvement, but they all just kind of cohesively work together to create like, the most optimal positive money mindset that we can come up with.
Yep. I like it.
Okay, Rod, setting clear financial goals. Next, we have celebrating the small stuff. We got to
Mhm.
celebrate small wins. I'll hit on my thoughts on this because early on in my, I'm just thinking about when I was 22, just got married. We're starting to start a family and those kinds of things, and I felt like it would have been a miracle to get $5,000 in my bank account. Like
Mhm.
I was just like, all right, if I can get it there, like we've arrived. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, that might be a little bit extreme, but my point is to suggest that the way that I view money today is astronomically different than the way I viewed money then. But I will say this: I think I was good at celebrating the wins,
Mhm.
right? And in our
Mhm.
business, like starting a business, you kind of have to, right? Because it
Yeah.
can be so challenging in that early stage to get over
Yep.
the hump. Like you've got to celebrate the small wins. Same thing applies here, especially if you're coming from a place of potentially negativity,
Mhm.
then definitely got to celebrate the small wins. But no matter who you are, it's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this goes hand in hand with the gratitude point, because when you do take a moment to recognize, hey, I've come a distance, right? I'm not to my ultimate goal. We're going to keep working towards that, but I have these little successes along the way that are getting me there. And it almost helps you put it into context of, oh, I've come somewhere, right? I've covered some distance to get to where I am right now. Celebrate those wins. And someone that comes to mind on this is Brennan. He's really good at doing this. Like he'll set he has his large goals, and then he has smaller things along the way. And then what he'll do is he'll set the goal, but then he'll also set a reward that goes with it. When I accomplish this, I'm going to whatever. Could
All
be an
right.
experience, could be a whatever, going to buy the truck, or different things along the way. But kind of a cool
Yeah,
way
whatever gets
to make
him.
sure that you do celebrate those small wins.
Yeah, I was taught that concept many years ago, specific to the business that we're in. Like, if you are able to produce XYZ, then you should try to find. I was never good at that. I'm going to be honest with you.
Me neither.
I'm more of just like, I'm a driver. When I find like something that I should do a little bit better job of probably celebrating those kinds of small wins.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. I'm not good at nearly as good at it today as I probably was when I was younger.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a balance, because if you're too set on celebrating those small wins and these rewards, then it can also kind of be to your detriment, right? Or in other words, those rewards become the kind of the spoils, so to speak, as opposed to working toward this larger goal that's further down the line. And so kind of what you're describing, I'm the kind of, I've just like head down, just keep working at it, trusting in the process. Things are gonna work out. But popping your head up every once in a while and looking around like, hey, this is where I am, and I've come a distance from where I was last time.
Rod, let's talk about number 8 in our 8 steps. What was the word I used?
8
It wasn't
ways
steps. 8 ways, 8
to
steps to
cultivate.
cultivate. Yeah, I knew that. Okay. 8 steps, 8 ways to cultivate a money mindset. We're on number 8, which is to let go of past mistakes. Now, let me be clear. This could again apply to all of life, but we're talking about money. This is important. I've had to make fun of myself several times. Like, anyone who's listened to the podcast, our 100+ episodes, has probably heard me refer to my yurt disaster a few times, 2 or 3 times, where basically tried to, Southern Utah, we bought a piece of property. We were going to put yurts up on it, tried to dig for land. We got the water witcher there. Do you know what a water witcher is, Rod?
I've heard of water witches, but I don't know what
man. Okay.
do.
So really quick side story. So the water witcher, what they do is they basically go walk over the land with like these 2 like stick prong things.
Okay.
And then the idea is that once they find water, it like flips the sticks.
Okay.
So it's literally somebody who like, and they would tell you basically that the sticks do it themselves. Right. Like it's not so much them doing it as it is like the instrument.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a magic instrument. Well, I may have been guilty of relying too much on my water witcher. And so I've had to learn from it. But can I just tell you, I think it's a funny and good story. And so like that's been the way that I've reframed, even though I lost some money on that. I still look at it as like a unique, good experience. And let me just say this, like, I make it sound really silly. Like it did have a potential to do really well. The issue was that we didn't get water. And when there was no water, it suddenly became far less favorable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
whole project
goes
property.
away.
Yeah. Everything. It just kind of turned it upside down. We would have had to like, go ship in like tanks, and it just would have made everything a lot more difficult. But again, that's one of those that I just kind of look back and laugh about. And doing that has helped me kind of have the courage and belief that I can just go forward. And so since then, I've had lots of successes, lots of wins, and that makes it a little bit easier. But what's your take on this? Why is it important to let go of past mistakes, Rod?
Well, I see people who have dreams. Like a lot of people, they don't give up on the dream necessarily, but fear basically takes over their life, and it's the past mistakes of, hey, I can't let that happen again, and so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. And the focus turns from goals to those fears, those past mistakes. Like they get stuck on those and can't get past them. And you're just not going to get there. You're not going to achieve the goals if your focus is not on the goal. If now you've turned your focus to the past mistakes.
Well, you know what we sometimes see, and this isn't the same, but it's similar to when people get like analysis paralysis, right? Like it's like not enough confidence to be in that position where they feel like they can move forward. And oftentimes that comes because of things that have happened in the past, which suggest that if I didn't know every detail, then something bad could potentially happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's just kind of an interesting connection.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple
by the way,
we
can't learn from our mistakes if we stop making them. So the idea that we will get to a place where we no longer make any mistakes is a fallacy. Like, forget if that's what you think that you can never get there, forget about it. Because I mean, like in your example, you learned a few things. You're not going to make the same mistakes again, but you still move forward, and you'll make more mistakes in the future, and you learn from them, right? So we
absolutely
can't learn from our mistakes if we don't make them.
Okay, so Rod, I have a secret. Maybe not a secret. Yeah, we'll call it a secret because it's no longer a secret because I'm about to tell it.
Okay.
I borrowed ChatGPT to help me with this specific point.
Okay.
Now, I had some things written down because I liked the idea that it was really important to let go of past mistakes. But ChatGPT was kind enough to give us some other points that I thought were like right on point that I had not thought of. So I'm going to go through a couple of them that ChatGPT brought for us.
Okay.
1, mental clarity. I'm actually just going to list them. Mental clarity, breaking negative patterns, self-compassion, boosting confidence, future focus, emotional health, motivation. Holy smokes, Rod. There's a lot of ways that letting go of past mistakes can have a huge impact. And we're not going to go into each one of those, but I think if we went into each one, it would be really clear and easy to see how that applies very directly to all of the other stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway, my hope is that as people listen, that they walk away thinking like, okay, there's maybe an item or two that I could start actually doing to create that more positive money mindset. If that's something that you need, and if you're already there, like if you already got that positive money mindset, then maybe this is just food for fodder.
All right.
Okay, Rod, is there anything? Okay, Rod, before we close up, I'm just going to do a quick recap of all 8 of the ways that we think we can develop a more positive money mindset. First off, we talked about affirmations, visualization, getting educated, practicing gratitude, surrounding yourself with positive influences, setting clear financial goals, celebrating the small wins, and finally, letting go of past mistakes. Our call to action today, Rod, is go to the Facebook group and answer our question of the week.
I like it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. We will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Money Insights Podcast. To learn more about the financial and business strategies discussed in this show, please visit moneyinsights.net. The views and opinions expressed on the Money Insights Podcast are not intended to be individual financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with the appropriate advisor before making financial decisions. And if you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This will help others find the show and learn wealth-building strategies for themselves. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.